Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm out here in the Harz Mountains in central Germany, and I've come to a lovely river valley here that I visited 2 years ago, and mostly I just want to get a couple of different sorts of shots, see what I can find as far as macro subjects, try and get a little bit creative with mushroom photography or whatever else I can find, and in particular I am really hoping to see a very special kind of amphibian. So that really hasn't taken very long. I've already spotted one of the species I really wanted to see here in the Harz, which is this tiny salmon pink or orange springtail, Bilobella browneri. And this is a species that I've never seen in or around Berlin, but I did see it for the first time 2 years ago when I was here in the Harz, the last time. And since this one appears to be staying fairly still, I'm going to grab the Laowa 25mm out of my backpack and get a focus stack. Along with this kind of really close-up focus stack, I do want to start experimenting with wider compositions and interesting lighting and things, but in this case this one really isn't in a very interesting spot or anything, so I think I'm going to leave it at the close-up for now. Not long after, while searching on dead wood and rotting logs, I spotted another group of springtails, including another one of the orange Bilobella browneri, a few dark bluish-grey Neonura muscorum, and a globular springtail, of which I filmed this clip here, where it looks like it's doing a little dance. My favourite scene though was this one, of a springtail which I initially thought was feeding on a slime mold, but upon closer inspection it actually seems to be feeding on another springtail. I've reached a really nice area of the waterfalls and I would like to get some landscapey shots of the waterfalls. And since I need my tripod and video lens for that, you won't get any behind the scenes video, but that's okay because it's raining anyway, so that way I can put my video kit away. I ended up getting some photos right away of the little waterfalls by the walkway here, and my first attempts were using quite a long exposure of around 8 seconds, and I don't really like the effect of the entirely blurred out water here, so I tried again a few more times and ended up with my favorite shot being this one, using shutter speed of around 1/4 of a second. This cascade of tiny waterfalls here is one of my favorite spots in the area, and I spent a while just looking around at the details trying to find an interesting frame to photograph, eventually landing on this fern here in front of a little waterfall. And the first few photos I got I wasn't really that happy with, but eventually, while experimenting with longer exposures and intentional camera movement, I got one shot which I think has quite an interesting effect. Back along the main river, this patch of mushrooms on a log by the waterfalls caught my eye, and to start off with I wanted to get a shot with the waterfalls blurred in the background. So I used a long exposure with flash to light the subject, and I think that this shot turned out quite nicely. After this I wanted to get a bit more creative, still using flash to freeze the subject, but moving the camera around afterwards to get some autumn colors in the frame. And since this was the first time I was experimenting with this technique, most of the photos you're seeing right now just didn't really turn out that well, but in the end, after experimenting for a while, I got a couple of results that I think look quite interesting. As I was packing up, I was surprised to spot an oak bush cricket on the gills of one of the mushrooms, and thought this would make quite an interesting photo. I ended up shooting through the stems of the other mushrooms and using an off-camera handheld flash, which I couldn't put on a tripod because it was right over top of the river, and after experimenting quite a bit with different flash angles and angles for shooting through the mushrooms with the camera, I ended up with a couple of frames that I think work quite well, including this final image, which I'm really happy with. The rain continued and I got very wet, but I continued along past waterfalls and forest groves before heading back down into the valley. So the rain has finally stopped, but my gear is all really quite wet, and so am I. So I'm going to stop for a few minutes at a little hut here in the woods before continuing on to my final and main target of the day. While searching along the banks of the river, I spotted another little mushroom on a log, and using the same technique as before with the honey mushrooms, I got one of my favorite shots of the day. So some of you have probably guessed it already, and maybe I put it in the video title, but I was looking for fire salamanders. This is a species I have wanted to see for a very long time, and the valley I was in is known to have them. The conditions that day were pretty much perfect as well. Fire salamanders are most active when it's cold and wet. I'd been searching all day though and still hadn't seen one, so I was beginning to think that I just wouldn't get lucky that day. I continued searching along the side of the paths in the nighttime forest until finally... there it is! Not sure yet how to photograph this one, but I've taken my flash off of camera and I'm using my remote trigger just to get a few kind of documentation images with some nice lighting. So I do have a few ideas for pictures I would like to get of these fire salamanders, but this one is not in a great spot for most of them, so I'm going to work with what I've got and maybe get a top-down texture shot next. And I've set up my 2 flashes here for some interesting lighting. Let's see what I can get. I don't think I ended up getting any great photos of that individual, but I'm so happy to have seen one because I was beginning to lose hope a little bit, and this has just got my spirits up a little bit more, and I'm going to keep looking and hopefully find another one in a better spot. I did end up seeing a few more fire salamanders, around 8 or 9 in total, and while they were all in similar spots to the first one, so not great spots for photography, I did end up getting a few photos that I'm quite happy with, so here are my favorites. So I think I'm gonna finish off the video here because I need to get back to the train station, but I am super, super excited to have finally seen the fire salamanders, and even though the rest of the day was quite rainy and wet, I still really enjoyed the day. So I hope you enjoyed following along, and yeah, see you in the next video.